what's going on, guys? Maldiva here, and today I'm going to be bringing you an Affliction Warlock's PvP talent guide. So I'm going to be going over all of the builds that I pretty much play in PvP one by one, so you guys can get a better feel for what build you should be playing in, what bracket, and in what composition that you're playing. So first build I'm going to go over is going to be the single target drain build, as I like to call it. So this build is going to be generally focused on just single target damage, draining, and I mostly use this in 2v2 if I'm playing with a healer, sometimes also when I do 2s with a DPS. And you could use this in 3s with playing with a Shadow Priest. And RBGs, maybe, possibly, but I like to go for the more raw build when I play RBGs. So let's keep this more towards like 2v2s and duels. So for this build, I'm going to pick up Malefic Grasp. That's going to buff my Drain Soul because that's going to be all my single target bursts. We don't really want the Wrath and Agony to spread damage. And next up, you're going to have Contagion because you want to get your UA up to Drain to get that 15% increased extra damage. For the third tree in 2s, you can actually pick up Howl of Terror or Coil. Or you could play with Port. It's totally dependent on you. I normally play with Port. That's just what I'm comfortable with. I've always played that forever. So it's really up to you. For the next, if I'm doing 2s, I'm going to pick up Soul Harvest. Maybe they'll have, let's say, a Mage and he can spell steal this buff. Or Resto Shaman, Disc Priest, something like that. They can purge it. You can opt for Phantom Singularity if you're worried about the Dispel. That's totally up to you. But for the most part, you want to be able to play Soul Harvest if possible. And for here, I just always play Demon Skin. I don't really worry about the other two. Dark Pact can be situational, but I'm always Demon Skin. And the same thing with here, always Service. I don't see the point in playing the others with this build. Get the benefit for the extra spell lock, or if you want to go for the Succubus Seduce for the extra CC. And for the last part, I would go Death's Embrace for the execute dots. You don't really want Siphon Life because you don't benefit when you drain. It doesn't refresh it or whatnot. So better off having the execute dots to finish them off when they start getting low. And some people ask why not Soul Conduit. Soul Conduit, it can be good, but I'm always pretty healthy on shards and I never really need the extra chance for the shard refund because then I'll just be sitting on way too many shards that I can even use. So I see much more value in Death's Embrace over that. Now moving on to the honor talents with this build, the Trinket is totally up to you. That's going to be situational. I mostly play Medallion. It's always going to be Mind Quickness. And coming down to the curses, you can play Fragility because this is going to be a high damage single target build. So you can frag the kill target if you're really going for that kill, or play it a little safe. Let's say it's a warrior, Curse of Weakness, or you want to just Tongues the Healer to increase his spell cast. That's up to you. And here, Netherward, obviously versus Spellcasters and let's say Frosty K's or Demon Hunters, you can reflect their kick. And Windwalker Monks, you can reflect their Karma, so that's also good versus them. Casting Circle could be situational. If you want to not have the long interrupt duration, just sit in the circle and drain. And Essence Drain is probably more of, let's say, a dueling build. Maybe let's reverse a Warrior, Resto Shaman, and 2s. You could play Essence Drain, just sit there spam draining the warrior so he's doing less damage to you. But overall, I like to use the other two over Essence Drain. I'd keep that for duels. And if I'm really struggling, let's say versus Feral or a warrior, then yes, I will pick up Essence Drain. And here, I've been practicing a lot with Soul Shatter. There's no real point for Nightfall and 2s because you have enough globals to keep up your dots. You're not really worried about your corruption on the off target too much anyway. And you're just going to be dumping shards that you could have used on UAs. So you don't really want to do that. It's just going to have a negative effect. And Endless Affliction is just a damage loss because, yes, it extends your UAs over a longer period of time, but they're dealing the same damage. So you're spreading it out and making your bursts less significant. And Soul Shatter, if you could use it right, I go in the opener, Corruption on one, let's say Arena 1, Corruption Arena 2, boom, pop Soul Shatter, and then bam, I get extra haste. And you get the shards back as well. So I just rather use that. I don't really dabble into these too much in 2s anymore. And then for the last row, we're going to go with Rotten Decay. It's pretty obvious, Rotten Decay. That's going to refresh your dot durations with your Drain. It's going to be the huge part of this build. Now, some people I've seen playing Curse of Shadows, but I would just highly recommend you play Rotten Decay with this build. So now that was the single target build, mainly used in 2s and let's say 3s with a Shadow Priest. Now I'm going to go over my 3v3 Rot build. So this is going to be the build I play in 3s if I'm like WLS or any other really good Affliction comp. This is just spam dots, do the most damage, not really have to worry about UAs too much or draining. So you're going to pick up Wrath and Agony for this build, Absolute Corruption. I play Portal pretty much 100% of the time in 3s, and we'll go with Phantom Singularity, always Demon Skin, Service for the extra spell lock and possibility for Succubus Seduce, and then Siphon Life, because we're going to be wanting to spread as many dots as possible, and execute dots doesn't really have much value here, so I'd rather you pick up Siphon Life. You can also get a little bit of the heals back as well, increase your self-healing. Now moving on to the Honor talents, the Trinket, totally situational. Always mind quickness no matter what. You can play frag, but in this build, I see this build as more of a safety build, so I'm either playing tongues for the healer, or there's a spellcaster I need to be worried about, like a mage. And weakness, let's say there's a warrior. I always played Nether Ward. Don't really need casting circle because as this build you're not casting much anyway, and then Essence Drain's not going to get any value because you don't want to sit there draining. You need to be constantly refreshing your dots, keeping your dots up, and fearing if possible. Now instead of Soul Shatter for this, you're going to want to pick up Nightfall. So Nightfall, this is what you're going to be mainly spending your shards on to refresh your corruptions, and also you can get some AoE splash damage if they're stacked up. So if a team stacks, they're going to get cleaved hardcore, you're going to get corruptions on everything, and then increase the chance for the Nightfall procs. This is insane versus, let's say, if Unholy Decay, which is pretty rare right now, or another Demo Lock, you can get the corruption on all as pets, and you're just getting so many procs, and damage. And then lastly, I am always Gateway Mastery for 3s. You need that extra gate yard and gate range, and the reduced time for the gate. That helps so much versus these melee cleaves that try to run you down. Because this build in 3s, you're gonna always try to be on the move. You don't really want to stand still. If you stand still, you're just dead meat basically to any melee cleave. So always be on the move, always be porting, gating, watching out for the enemy team's cooldowns. And then the last build I would say is going to be kind of a mixture. It's going to be an Aoe Dot Build, but specifically for, let's say, random battlegrounds or RBGs. This will be the build that I play in there. So it's kind of similar to this. There's only a few changes. So it's going to be Wrath and Agony, Absolute Corruption. For here, you can play Howl and RBGs. I was just mainly playing Port, and some of the RBGs or the battlegrounds you can get knocked off. So it's good to have Portal. And then Sow the Seeds can be a viable option. Let's say you're fighting in an RBG or a battleground where they're all stacked up, Eye of the Storm in the middle. This talent is a ton of fun to play with. You just have Seed of Corruptions exploding on everybody, and it's a lot of cleave. If you want to pad the meters, that'll be a good option. But Phantom Singularity and Soul Harvest are both viable as well. So it's going to take a little bit of experimenting, see what you like the best on what battleground and whatnot, but none of them are really bad options. The only thing you'd have to worry about is Soul Harvest being purged or dispelled off you, and Sow the Seeds, if they don't stack up, then it's kind of useless at that point. And I'm always going to be Demon Skin, Service as well. That's really not changing too much. And then here, instead of Siphon Life, we're going to be going Death's Embrace, because you're not going to have enough globals to be putting Siphon Life on everybody in RBGs and random battlegrounds. Maybe in random battlegrounds, there's some little mini fights that happen on the road because people don't know how to fight in the node too much. So you can just Siphon Life for if that happens, if there's like a little 1v1 duel or 1v2. But for RBGs, I just like Death's Embrace. That's my preference. And then Trinkets, always situational, Mind Quickness, and Curses. For RBGs, I just go frag to push for the kill. When, let's say, the team calls a kill target, just boom, pop a frag on it and help them push for that kill. Here, always Nether Ward. I'm not draining too much because I'm just dotting, and not really casting. So casting circle is not going to really gain too much worth. Better to have Nether Ward to try to reflect the interrupts and like spellcasters kicks on you, and let's say even incoming harmful spells at you. And Nightfall is going to be huge in this build. Huge, 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 especially if you play Sell the Seeds. You're going to really want Nightfall, but I take this 100% of the time in RBGs. Just constantly spending shards on the Seed of Corruption. And lastly, we're going to pick up Rotten Decay. You don't need Gateway Mastery too much. It's not like an arena where you need to be gating. You could, let's say, oh, actually, Curse of Shadows could be viable as well. I haven't really experimented too much with it if you have a lot of dot damage on your team. But for the most part, I pick up Rotten Decay. So if there's ever a situation, let's say I have to 1v1 someone, I can drain and keep refreshing all my dots, and I'll have a pretty good advantage over them. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope it helped. If you have any questions or concerns, don't be afraid to leave a comment down below. Also, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like on this video. I'm going to be doing a Battle for Azeroth expansion giveaway. So if you're interested and want to win a copy of that, click the link down below in the description and you can follow the instructions on how to enter that. Also, if you have an emergency question, I stream on Twitch every day. So you just drop by in the chat, ask the question. I'll be more than happy to help. And thank you all again. I will see you guys in the next video.